Hi, this is the review that we are doing for the quiz, but I thought it may help you prepare for the test. So on the top corner, I just hand wrote in all the questions, all the formulas that will be given to you. So this is standard form, this is vertex form, and this is intercept form, also called factored form, okay? So those will be provided. Now, in order to do this, it says find the vertex. So let's identify which form this is. This is in standard form. So to find the vertex, you have to use negative b over 2a. All right, so right now we know that a is 1 because a is the coefficient of x squared. B is 4. So I guess maybe circle, a is 1, b is 4, and c is negative 1. Okay, so negative b, negative 4, over 2 times a, and a is 1. So negative 4 over 2, which gets me negative 2. So the axis of symmetry is negative 2, but it's asking for the vertex. So I know that that number goes into the x. Now, I don't love standard form, but it looks pretty, so we're asked to use it a lot. So now I have to plug in negative 2 into all of the x's, and we're gonna get y or f of x. F of x is another name for y. All right, so negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2 is minus 8, and I have minus 1. So 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. So my vertex is negative 5. Okay, let's look at the next problem. This is in vertex form. Well, we really like vertex form because vertex form, to find the vertex, it's just HK. So you can look here, H, okay? So the vertex, I take this and it's the opposite. So this is a negative 1, so it's gonna be a 1. K is out here, 2, all right? It says negative H, so that was a negative 1, so the H is just 1. And then K is whatever is out here. Some people just go opposite, same. Okay, so for C, to find the vertex, there's 2 different ways that you can think about it. The first way is to say, okay, well, I can use the formula. The formula is P plus Q divided by 2. That gives you the axis of symmetry, and then you would plug in the axis of symmetry to get the Y. All right, so if I do it that way, I would say P. So P is going to be negative 1. It's almost like, see if I have this negative sign here, it's like the opposite of what it is there. So I'm gonna say it's negative 1, the opposite of Q, plus 3 over 2. Negative 1 plus 3, 2 over 2. So the axis of symmetry is 1. All right, so to get the vertex, I'm gonna say 1. Now I take that 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. I have this negative outside. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and then tack that negative on, which gets me 4. Now the other way I can look at this that's pretty easy is I can tell you that looking at, if it is in intercept form, I know that the x-intercepts, or the zeros, are going to be negative 1 and 3. So if I looked at this on a graph, right, I would say, okay, negative 1 and 3 are the zeros. I know it's a sad face, so I'm just gonna say, okay, maybe it looks something like that, right? And so to find the axis of symmetry, I'm looking at where is right in between. Well, 1, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 is right between. So I know 1 is the axis of symmetry. Do the same thing, plug the 1 in, and we would get 4, all right? Now, this part down here is just like straight memorization. Okay, there's going to be 2 sections that are just going to ask you what kind of function it is. One is going to have equations and one is going to have pictures. Okay, so this is a cubic function. This is also a cubic function. Okay, so we've done both the picture and the equation for a cubic function. An exponential function, I'm going to just kind of jump a little bit over here. Exponential function. Now, if you're looking for a picture of an exponential function, it's like one of those that kind of go way up, you know, like if you doubled your money, it would just be going up, 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 pretty steep. Okay, so that's an exponential function. A quadratic function has an exponent of 2. So this is quadratic. Like the largest exponent is 2. I don't have a picture of a quadratic function, but we have done tons of those. You should know that they are smiley faces or that they are frowny faces. Okay, a linear function. A linear function is right here, a straight line. And it also looks like this. No exponents and nothing weird, like no radicals. All right, a square root function. I can see that's obvious because it's a square root sign. Now, a square root function looks like this. Okay, that could also be upside down, but it doesn't go in both directions. Okay, like all the others kind of have arrows on both sides. This one does not. And it's because we can't make this a negative number. So if I had -5 in here, that would be fine, but I can't have -6 because I can't square root a negative number. Okay, so this one is cube root function. And if you wanted to know like what the equation would look like, it would be something that's pretty easy because it would have like a cube root right there. The only one I also didn't mention was absolute value. Should have probably added that in. An absolute value function is when you have an absolute value sign. And those functions look like V. Just think of the letter V. Whoops, kind of over here, sorry. This is an absolute value function where you have the absolute value sign. It makes a V or an upside down V, okay? All right, this next part down here is just asking if the function is one of these. Okay, now I know we've talked about those pictures up here and those equations, but when it comes to tables, it's either going to be, for right now, it's either going to be linear, exponential, or quadratic. Okay, and so for linear, I'm looking for like adding or subtracting the same number every time. For exponential, I'm looking for multiplying the same number every time. And for quadratic, it's the second common difference. Okay, so let's look here. The first thing I check is, am I adding the same number? So plus, this is plus 1 plus 3. Okay, so right now I know it's not linear. Then I'm going to go to multiply. Multiply, nope, it's not exponential. So it's probably quadratic, but let's double check. Because usually it'll say or neither. All right, so we add 1. This is we add 3. This is we add 5. Okay, then you go here. Second difference has to be the same. To get from 1 to 3, we added 2. To get from 3 to 5, we added 2. So because that is the same, now we know that that is quadratic. Over here, I'm going to see, is it linear? Plus 2, and it also could be minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. Plus 2, so that is linear. I'm going to guess this one is exponential, multiplied by 2, multiplied by 2, multiplied by 2, exponential. All right. Flip your paper over. Okay, these are like transformations that have taken place. And I love the first example, O, because it looks like a mess, like a disaster. Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. But if you look here, we're starting off with f of x, right? This is what we're starting with. And we're saying g of x is taking f of x, right? It's taking all of this stuff, and then we're adding 2 to it. So what are we doing to this function? This is, I don't really even care about because I'm just taking that whole function and adding 2. So I'm going to say up 2. Okay? Over this one is a little different. I'm not comparing this to the whole f of x function. I mean, it's saying f of x is x squared, the parent function. So, and what changes have happened from here to here? Well, you'll notice, hey, I just added 2, it's in parentheses. Remember we talked about that goes sideways. It's the opposite to what you think. So this is left 3, and this is on the end, down 8. Okay, rate of change. This has been giving some people a hard time today. So rate of change, we have the population of a town in 1950 is 1,000 people. Every decade it triples. What's the rate of change between 2000 and 2020? So this is like a few problems in one. Okay, when we're starting off with this, we start off with the initial amount. So my first equation is going to be my initial amount is 1,000. And then it triples, so 3. And I need to know how many decades is it from 1950 to 2000? Well, 1950, 1960, 70, 80, 90, 2000, 5 decades. So my exponent over here is going to be 5,000. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing, except for I'm going to start with 1,000 here. It triples, but now I have to know going all the way to 2020. So that's 7. All right, so basically I plugged in 5 and I'm going to see what my answer is. I plugged in 7 and I'm going to see what my answer is. Okay, so 3 to the 5th power. Do that first, then multiply it by 1,000. Oh, I did not leave enough room. 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Here, 3 to the 7th power times 1,000. 21870. Okay. So now what I have to do is to find the rate of change. Remember, that's when I do xy, xy. Do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to take this 2 million and subtract this y. 7 minus 5. And this was decades. When we figure this out here, we're doing like per decade. And on a test, it should say that. Okay, so I'm going to subtract. Whoops, sorry, you guys, I hadn't scooted over. Here we go. Hopefully you can see that now. Okay, I'll repeat that. So that was the formula. I plugged that in. I started with a 5, and that was the outcome. Started with a 7, and that was the outcome. And now I'm subtracting them and dividing. So when I subtracted them, I got, and I'm going to divide by 2. Okay, so my answer here is going to be 972,000, and that is per decade. So you have to be careful to see if they're asking you per, if they're asking you like per year or per decade, okay? All right, last two. So this is asking for you to write the equation. On the quiz, you might also have to be able to plug it back in. So you not only find the equation, but then you find like f of 4 or f of 5 or something, okay? So write the equation in vertex form. So if I remember, vertex form is f of x equals a, and then what's super helpful is for me to find the vertex. So if I have these numbers, I notice that that is repeating, and so the vertex should be smack dab in between when the two y's repeat, right? Because these are symmetrical. So this is the vertex right here. So I'm going to put x minus 1 plus 1, and this is a squared. Okay, so now I have to figure out what a is. So to do that, I pick another coordinate, and it doesn't matter which one. I'm going to use this one because I think it's pretty easy to deal with zeros. Okay, so this is f of x or y is 2, and I'm saying my x is 0. Zero minus 1 is -1. -1 squared is 1, so I have 1a plus 1. So don't add those together first. That's a mistake kids make. You got to make sure you multiply that together before you add it. And then I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. So 1 is the value of a. All right, so now I'm going to rewrite the equation. F of x equals my a value was 1. So I don't really need to put it. X minus 1 squared plus 1. Now, let's say I asked you to find f of 4. Okay, if that was the question, hey, find f of 4. You would have to do all of that, and then you would just plug in, right? F of 4. You could put a 4 there, but I hate for that to confuse you. Some people think it's easier to just turn that into a y. And then we're going to plug a 4 in here. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 squared is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. And really, you should say f of 4 is 10. Okay? All right, let's go to this one. This one says write it in intercept form. Okay, so I always like to just write the equation so I'm not, you know, getting confused. All right, so I need the factored form. I need to find my zeros. My zeros are right here. They're the ones that have zeros in the y. So it's not that they're repeating, it's because I see zeros in the y. All right, so I know I'm gonna fill this in. So x minus 2, x minus 4, okay? It's always the x's of the zeros. All right, so now I have to figure out what a is. Very similar as before. I'm gonna plug this coordinate in, okay? My x value is 5 and my y value is 6. So negative 6 equals a, 5 minus 2, 5 minus 4, okay? Negative 6 equals a, 5 minus 2 is 3, 5 minus 4 is 1, negative 6 equals 3 times 1 times a is 3a. To get a by itself, I divide by 3. So a equals negative 2. So I'm going to rewrite the equation. F of x equals, I know my a value, negative 2, x minus 2, and x minus 4. It's almost should be just like this, except for I plugged in that. Now, once again here, if I wanted to find out, let's say I said, what's f of, let's do maybe f of 0. If I wanted to find out f of 0, I would say f of 0, or I could make that a y. That's not actually doing anything. I'm not multiplying f and 0. Negative 2, 0 minus 2, 0 minus 4. F of 0 equals 0 minus 2 is negative 2, 0 minus 4 is negative 4. So now I'm going to multiply all of those. F of 0 equals negative 2 times negative 2. And it's okay to multiply those first and then that. You're not distributing, okay? You're just multiplying 3 numbers. So negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. All right, so hopefully that helps. Good luck.